Hi, I'm Johnny Kay and welcome to Spotlight on GCSE English Language. This series of videos will help you to develop your understanding of the key questions in both GCSE English Language exam papers by looking at what the question is asking you to do, what you should include in your answer, common mistakes to avoid, and top tips. In this question, we'll be covering Paper 1, Question 5. Paper 1 Question 5 assesses your writing skills and how you can communicate clearly, effectively and creatively. But what does this look like? You should spend 45 minutes on Question 5, 5 minutes planning and 40 minutes writing your response. A simple way to remember timings is to use the number of marks for how long you should spend answering the question. It's important that you use all of the available time when you answer the question, as it's worth 50% of the available marks on Paper 1. Usually, the question will start with a scenario or situation and it'll ask you to complete some creative writing. This could be for a competition or a school website, for example, but this opening line is the least important part and you should focus on the rest of the question. For this question, you have a choice of 2 tasks. The first task has an image, a picture, a drawing, or a photograph to prompt you and will ask you to describe a person, place, or setting, or write a story that's suggested by the image. The second task will give you a suggested topic, title, or theme to write about. Both of the tasks will likely be linked to the text you have read in the first part of the paper. Though you'll usually have a choice of the 2 tasks, there might not always be 2 different styles of writing. It's possible you could have a choice of 2 descriptive tasks or 2 narrative tasks, so you should prepare for both. It is important to remember that whichever task you decide to complete, you might use a lot of the same features in both. For example, if you choose to write a description, you still could move into creating a story and vice versa. No matter which you choose, you'll be marked on your ability to communicate and structure your answer. This question asks you to include and do a number of things, so what should you include in your answer? Let's take a look. For this question, 24 marks are available for the content and organisation of your answer. You should clearly communicate your ideas, use a range of vocabulary and language, use a tone and style which are suitable for the task you've chosen, interest and engage the reader with your answer, effectively structure your writing by organising a range of ideas, and use words or phrases which link sentences or ideas such as however or although. 16 marks are available for technical accuracy. Make sure that you use a wide range of punctuation accurately, use a wide range of sentence types and vocabulary accurately, and use standard English and grammar, and that your spelling is accurate. In short, you're being asked to write an engaging description or story like the text you read earlier in the paper. Think about the kinds of ideas, themes, topics and techniques you've seen in the papers you've studied throughout the year as inspiration. Now, this doesn't mean that you should copy from or quote other texts, but you could use the ideas you see as starting points. This is a great opportunity to think about the skills you've analysed in the other questions in the exam. For example, in question 2, you'll have analysed language features such as similes and metaphors. These are great features to include. For question 3, you'll analyse structural features such as the order of events and the effect this has on the reader. Again, think about how you can use this to engage the reader. Having ideas ready to discuss in your exam about people, places or themes can be an excellent way to plan your response. You could begin to plan and write about a character a few months before the exam. By adding small details to your character on a regular basis, you'll have a fully formed character that you can use in the exam. Similarly, thinking about some of the elements of other books you've read, films you've seen, or even songs you've heard can be a great way to help develop your ideas. And this doesn't just need to be for a character. You could do this for a setting or specific place. Think about the surroundings and environment. What would you be able to see or hear? How would you feel being in this environment? Is it hot, cold, windy, raining? Another way you can prepare is by building up a bank of vocabulary. Identify alternatives for common words that can be used when writing about any topic. Words such as hot, cold, good, or bad. Use these words in your writing throughout the year. By doing this, you're much more likely to remember and use them in the exam and create a more engaging piece of writing as a result. It's important to plan your response. But what does good planning look like? Firstly, it's important to keep your plan as simple as possible. Focus on elements of the image which you find the most interesting. This could be one of the main parts of the image or something that the image makes you think of. Remember, the task asks you to think about and describe something which is suggested by the image. Jot down language features or vocabulary you'll use when writing your description. Begin to think of phrases, including the way you'll use punctuation in these sentences to support your plan. Think about the image as part of a series of images. What happened before it was taken? What will happen next? Think about using a simple structure. Something like situation, complication, resolution. Think of the situation that's suggested to you in the task. Then think about an act, action, or event which would complicate the situation, and then an act, action, event, or person who would resolve this complication. Let's look at this example question. The situation is a young person in a busy marketplace. The complication could be that they've lost their friends and they're accused of stealing something from a stall. In the resolution, they catch the actual thief, hand them over to the police, and find their friends. Now we've looked at what should be included and possible ways you can plan your response, let's look at what this looks like when these features are put together. Here is part of an answer to the description task. This response achieved 25 marks. When we look at the answer in detail, we can see the students clearly thought about the structure of their response, as well as the vocabulary and the way they've used punctuation. Thinking back to the question and who the writing is for, visitors to your school or college's website, the tone and style of this response is obviously suitable for the audience and would engage them because of this. The students used a range of sentence types and structures which engage the reader and make the answer sound very convincing. We can see there's a wide range of punctuation, and that's been generally used accurately and mostly with success. The students built up the scene and have structured their answer to describe the surroundings in lots of detail. This means the cliffhanger ending leaves us wanting to know more. This suspense is a great way to end an answer, as giving a detailed and thorough response, especially in 40 to 45 minutes, can be difficult. If you're struggling to start your response to this question, focus on specific aspects of the image. What do you find most interesting, or what could you give more detail on? Think about the senses, so see, hear, smell, taste, and touch or feel. How can you discuss each one? Think about who, what, when, where, why, and how. Open with a rhetorical question. If you were in this image or scenario, what would you like or need to know the answer to? The next few sentences can be an answer to that question. Consider what happened before the image and what could happen after it. If you're writing a story, base it on the character and location you've created previously. Now you know what to include in an answer and what this looks like, how can you make sure you gain as many marks as possible? Let's take a look. The clearer you can get across your ideas and the more interesting and engaging you can make your response, the more marks you can achieve. A very simple way to gain more marks is by making sure you use linking words or phrases such as firstly, therefore, however, in the past, or consequently. Also, make sure that you not only use a range of sentence types, but that you experiment with sentence lengths. Remember, a piece of writing with entirely short sentences is less likely to be engaging. Short sentences can help build tension, and longer, more descriptive sentences help set the scene. You need both to interest the reader. An effective method to help improve your writing is to make sure that you're trying to accurately use a range of punctuation. So instead of using only a capital letter and a full stop in a sentence, why not add speech? Why not add a question into speech with a colon to introduce speech? If you can do this and take into account how things are happening, your sentence goes from I went to the beach on Tuesday to I screamed, I went to the beach on Tuesday. So far, we've looked at how to give an effective answer, but what should you avoid? Let's look at the things you don't want to include in your answer. If you don't plan, this can mean that you sometimes just write the first things that you think of and the story reads more like a shopping list. If your story or description isn't engaging, you'll lose marks. Remember, the examiner can't read your mind. If you want them to imagine what you've created, you need to use a detailed description. If you choose to write a story, it's unlikely you'll be able to write a full one in 45 minutes. Try to focus on a particular part of the story, the beginning, a main event, or action in the middle or the ending, and write about this in much more detail. Although there's no suggested amount that you should write for this question, it's important to remember that quality is better than quantity. 2 to 3 pages of high quality description is better than 6 or 7 without any description. By trying to include too many characters, you might find that you're not able to fully describe each one. It's better to use a smaller group or even one character. For paper 1, question 5, remember these top tips. Planning's essential, and you should spend 5 minutes developing your plan. Use some of the ideas, themes and topics in the text for section A to give you inspiration. Prepare ahead of time by developing characters and settings well in advance of the exam. Add a visual list of punctuation at the top of each page to remind you of which punctuation you have and haven't used. Using a cliffhanger can be a really effective way of ending your response. Check out the other videos in this series for Paper 1, Question 4, Paper 2, Question 4 and Paper 2, Question 5.